Good evening. Welcome to Kopernik Observatory. My name is Drew Desker. I'm the director here at Kopernik. And it's great to have a nice, intimate crowd this evening. Unfortunately, our weather is not being very, very hospitable tonight, but we're going to have a lot of fun and have an opportunity to learn about something that certainly I need to know more about. And by show of hands, who's here for the first time or not since your fourth grade field trip? Okay. Okay, once before. All right, very good, very good. Well, again, I asked that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it's actually an opportunity for me to talk about Kopernik memberships, and that we belong to what's called the ASTC, Association of Science and Technology Centers, and so your Kopernik membership gets you into 350 other science centers for free, and our cost is pretty cost effective, and again, so you can get to the Franklin Institute, the Intrepid down in New York City, the most up in Syracuse. So if you like this kind of place, a Kopernik membership might be a good thing. And for those watching on the live stream, the same applies to you as well. So Kopernik's actually been around for almost 50 years, well, actually over 50 years. And we are an informal, we're a public observatory, but an informal STEM education facility. So right now we have school groups coming up here, doing everything from robotics to learning about the star life cycle, and in the summer we have a very extensive summer camp program that we offer for kids from second grade through high school. But I personally love these Friday night programs because it's an opportunity for us to really learn about a wide range of things. It's not just always about astronomy. And so actually, if you go to our website, we always tell you what's going on. So tonight's program is about the Pantanal, and but if you go up here, we can to our events, and see here. I'm gonna just where is it? Not summer camps, public events. I'm sorry, public programs. I'm sorry, and it'll then take you to the list of programs that we've had. Up until actually a couple weeks ago, we had a talk on the mysteries of Easter Island. This is tonight's program, and hopefully, the National Weather Service was scheduled to come up here for a summer review and a winter preview. However, I was made aware this week that if the government shutdown isn't resolved, they are unable to be here. But we will then reschedule them for some time in the future. Power of collaboration and economy, well-being and environment, and always our annual black holes on Black Friday. So, and then we'll have some programs in December. In January and February, we sort of peel it back a little bit. Just one Friday night in January, and in February we always do a winter star party, always around the Kopernik's birthday. So this year, next year, it'll be February 21st, and that'll be a Saturday night. And then our programs will start back up again on in early March. But one of the things that we've been doing, we did when COVID hit, is we started live streaming these things because we couldn't have people gather in a large classroom, and we continue to do that. So now we've got over 14,000 subscribers, close to 14,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and people literally watch from around the world. But what's also neat about it is that you can go and you can look at those last 5 years worth of programs. So if you want to see that Easter Island talk, you just go to our YouTube channel and pick it out. If you want to you want to look at tonight's program, in the future, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. But along with our Friday night programs, we also do observing sessions. And so, in fact, Jenny Carty is our live stream astronomer, who's behind the screen right now, has done a number of live streams when there have been particular astronomical events, like eclipses, meteor showers, even aurora. And back in March, if you recall, there was a lunar eclipse, and Jenny put together a 1 minute time lapse of the eclipse. This started at 2 in the morning. So you see the penumbra starting to cover the moon. Then eventually you'll see she'll switch the exposure so that we can actually see the blood moon pop up. And once again, it was not the end of the Earth. What's really unique when you're in the middle of a lunar eclipse like this, normally the moon wipes out all but just the brightest stars. But when you get into this eclipse time, when you're in total eclipse, the Milky Way pops out, all those really dim stars pop back out during totality. And then we come back into the end of the eclipse. So this live stream this YouTube channel and live stream has been a great teaching tool for us and an outreach tool for us. All right, so let me get out of this here. And we'll just stop it right there. So again, we are so fortunate to have some great resources here in the area that talk about what they do. And we're fortunate, again, to have Dr. Victor Lamoureux from SUNY Broome to talk about what he does and what he did in this case. And so we're going to turn everything back over to him. And so I'm going to go to your slideshow. And here we go. So you got your mic on? All right.
Everything good? Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's really loud sounding for me. This is a quiet voice for me because that would be really, really loud if I was talking my normal teacher voice. So welcome everybody, all those people out on YouTube as well. So we're going to go to the Brazilian Pantanal, which is the realm of the jaguar. And it's really a land of superlatives, all right? Mostly being big. So it's the largest tropical wetland in the world. It's 20 times bigger than our Florida Everglades, so that's pretty big. It's got the largest cat in the Americas, which is the jaguar. It's got the largest macaw in the world, which is the Hyacinth Macaw. It's pretty spectacular blue. This is a courting pair. It's got the largest toucan in the world, which is the Toco toucan. Some nice alliteration there for you. It's got the largest rodent in the world, and now I'm going to ask for some crowd participation, but not these two right here. Can anybody tell me the largest rodent in the world? What? Anteater. Nope.
Is it like a something?
Capybara. The capybara is the largest rodent in the world. Do you know what the second largest rodent in the world is? You can't answer again. Anybody know the second largest rodent? It lives right here in Broome County. Possum's marsupial. Squirrel is a rodent, but it's not very big. It's a beaver. The beaver is the second largest rodent in the world. All right. So here's a cute little capybara. All right. And it's got the world's largest snake, which is the green anaconda. So yeah, a lot of big things going on in the Pantanal. And it's also got the continent's heaviest land mammal, which is a kind of a strange critter called a tapir. Right? And so my family and I went there back in the summer of 2024, so not this past summer, but there's a saying this: if the Amazon forest provides South America's lungs, then the Pantanal is the continent's kidneys. All right, and I don't know if you caught the Americas, narrated by Tom Hanks last spring. It was on NBC. And one of the things they had in there was really cool is they had a segment on the Pantanal when they did South America. And you saw this great kind of aerial footage, map type of idea of this giant water body that just slowly shrinks during the dry season. This wetland's a huge wetland, but it's very seasonal. Okay, so we went there in the hope of seeing Brazil's big five, all right, which is the Brazilian tapir, the giant anteater, the giant river otter, the jaguar, and the maned wolf. In the section we were in, it's never been historically very present there. It is in the Pantanal, but it's a further south section. So the maned wolf was not going to be on our list. But that was very far-fetched for us to get that. So it's going to be the big four that we're trying to get on our trip. And maybe an honorary mention, seeing an anaconda would have also, I think that should be in the list, personally, okay? So there's a cast of human characters involved here that, are going to keep coming up. So my lovely wife, Sherry, there on the left. My niece, Lauren, in the middle there. My daughter, Victoria, is on the far right horse there. Lauren roped her way into this trip, all right? But it was great. It was great she did, because it ended up just being the 6 of us. We became a whole tour group just to ourselves. And she roomed with my daughter, and they're buds, so it worked out great. These are my sons, Joseph on the left, Jackson on the right. Looked like they were about to go to some sort of Catholic mission school here. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but in any case, and then we had 2 great guides. This is Fisher Souza, who is a native Brazilian. He's got a really interesting backstory on how he became a guide and everything like that, but I don't have enough time. I'm going to be moving so fast through this. We got so many things. This is Adrian Benz, and they both work for a group called Wildside, although Adrian has just moved on to a different organization now. So here's our group. Fisher in the back checking on some radio signals and things, because when the boats are out looking for jaguar, they're all in communication, and if someone's seen, people kind of flock to it. So to start us off, this is one of the spots we were at. This is my son Joseph lying on the bank here taking pictures of animals. It kind of epitomizes to me the abundance of wildlife in the Pantanal and how crazy it is. So what I'm asking you here is, including Joe, because he's a vertebrate animal, all right, how many species are present in this photo, including Joe? Somebody want to give me some numbers? I hear 4. Is that a 5? A 5? A 5? Oh, I got 4s and a bunch of 5s. Now, originally, it was interesting. I took this picture, and I can sync the camera to my phone, and I synced the picture, and I sent it to our group, and I said, how many vertebrates did I capture in this picture, including Joe? And I thought it was 6, and Adrian chimes back in, 7. He noticed one I didn't even know was in the picture. So let's count them really quick. All right, we've got a group of capybaras there. All right, we've got caiman here. We've got a greater rhea sneaking in the back there. We've got Joe, that's 4. We've got a stilt, that's 5. We got these skimmers, that's 6. And on top of this branch right here, and I should probably do this so the people on YouTube can see it, right on top of this branch right there is a bird called a great kiskadee. That's the one Adrian noticed. He was like, there's also a kiskadee on the stick right there. And I'm like, holy cow. All right, that's how good these guides were, though. They were pulling stuff out left and right. I'm going to show a lot of birds, but not nearly as many as I could. We saw over 200 species of birds on the trip, okay? I mean, a good day in Broome County, you'd be lucky to get 100. And we work hard for those. So you might have noticed as I was going through this beautiful tree in the background, all right? It's called the pink ipe tree, or the puiva tree. It blooms only for a couple of weeks of the year, and we hit it probably at peak blossoming. As a matter of fact, they had a tour group the week before us, and it wasn't really quite in bloom yet, and we showed up, and it really added a dramatic backdrop to everything we did. So what's it going to be like there? We're looking, and look at these temperatures. We're kind of looking. Now, fortunately, we were going in July, August, so we were pretty used to hot temperatures, which was nice. We were acclimated to Binghamton hot weather. All right, so it wasn't like we were leaving from the winter. That's Fahrenheit, yeah. All right, and so you can see it's going to be warm. All right, although there's going to be a little bit of a twist in there coming up here. All right, so if you don't know, okay, here's Brazil. It's a rather large country, and of course you might know the Amazon basin is a big part of that. We were not going to be in the Amazon. All right, we're mostly in this area called Mato Grosso. All right. And there's a river that cuts off Mato Grosso and Mato Grosso do Sul. Down in do Sul is where you get more of the maned wolf populations. Actually better for anteater, I'm told, too. All right? But the Pantanal encompasses this kind of a big area in here. It covers Mato Grosso, parts of Bolivia, Paraguay, and Mato Grosso do Sul. All right? So it's a pretty large wetland, pretty large area. All right? One of the major ways to get around is the Trans-Pantanal Highway. You're going to hear about this a lot. Yes, this is a highway. Actually kind of looks like my road the last few months. But anyways, 145 kilometers long. All right, it's got 120 bridges on this. And it starts just below a town called Cueva and goes all the way to Porto Joffre, which is the end of the road. It was mostly put in for the cattle ranchers to be able to get cows to market and so forth. All right, that was pretty much where it kind of ended. All right, and so we were going along, mostly traveling the Trans-Pantanal, all right, and we were making some stops. Our first stop was Puso Alegre, and then we went all the way down to Porto Joffre, where we start running the rivers, all right, for looking mostly for jaguar there. Although anywhere in this place you could end up with jaguar, okay? And we came back up to a place called Santa Teresa, all right, and we ended up at the Puival, and we just had one little night at a little place called the Amara, all right? So that's kind of where we're going. And the Puival, which is the second to last spot, this is a thing they had above the reception desk. This is the Pantanal in flood season. And they are completely basically surrounded by water. You'll see in our pictures, there's almost no water out there when we're there. It's been one of the driest years in the last 5 years there. But it shrinks way down. And there was just one little pool out here that we were able to go see stuff with, all right? But there's lots of other stuff to go see there, all right? So one of the things, the first spot we're going to is Puso Alegre. This is not a national park. This is mostly a bunch of private properties and cattle ranches. Most of them are still working cattle ranches, actually. But what they've figured out is it's a great ecotourism model, too. So they can kind of diversify. You know, they can raise cattle, but they can also cater to tourism, all right? And so this is one of the first spots. So we flew overnight type of thing, get off the plane, met our guides, and Fisher was in a real rush. We hadn't met Adrian yet. Adrian had to deal with getting some other people somewhere, and he was going to meet up with us. And Fisher's like, I just want to bust really hard down because there's a watering hole, and we might get a tapir there at night. There's been a tapir showing up in the evening, and that was one of the big four, right? So we got to take a shot. So we get down, and you can see one kid's kind of tired already, and there's also too many birds. But what that kid did for me is actually created this little composite image of the watering hole, all right? This is stuff we saw over just like an hour or two there. Like the amount of wildlife there was crazy. There was always something you were looking at. From these sunbitterns, which are a really cool bird, to these brocket deer, to this is a curassow, lots of different types of doves. This is a tinamou, this is a coati, all right? This is a yellow-billed cardinal. There's just so many things, all right? This is a chaco chacalaca, which you're going to hear a bit about more too, and they are constantly just making noise and around all the time, all right? But so we had tons of wildlife. I mean, you didn't know where to look. I mean, there was crested caracaras in the trees and just so much wildlife going on. And in the end, a great sunset, and we were done for the night. And no, we didn't get a tapir. The tapir did not show up that night at the watering hole, but I mean, it was kind of head spinning to see everything that was there and try to figure out all these new things that we're going to be seeing. The very next morning, first light, we were getting ready to go out, and Fisher was like, come on, like, we got to come out, you got to come out, because there was a southern tamandua. This is a type of anteater, all right? It's not the giant anteater, but it's a type of anteater that does a lot of climbing and stuff, and I've seen them a few other places. They're pretty cool. So that was kind of the start of our day. We go out, we have this, they basically have converted a lot of things to like safari type of vehicles out there, all right? And this one is the one we were in regularly. This gentleman there in the cowboy type of hat, he basically followed us to every location. He would just show up. He was there. He was like the guy hired to take us different places. So when we would show up at a place, all of a sudden, here he was. And a great driver, took us around. And so we'd go out, took a little delay there. And so from that vehicle, taking pictures, things like this great black hawk, here's a scaly-headed parrot, doing little acrobatics to pull some seeds out and eat them, all right? So just lots and lots of birds. This guy giving you the Angry Birds look. This is a roadside hawk. Now, I've been to Costa Rica actually 8 times and been in the tropics quite a bit. And so some of the things that we're seeing here, which are usually really hard to see and get good looks at, were just, there they were. So it was just crazy that it was that easy in some ways to see some of these things. Here's one of the Toco toucans. right, which are really cool. And almost all the places, they set up different feeders and things, so you can really see some of these things close. This one is kind of a log, and on the back side, they put the seed, so you could, you know, there's a kiskadee flying off in the background there. So lots of different things were showing up here. Different types of blackbirds. Here's the yellow-billed cardinals again. This is a chestnut-eared aracari, which is related to the toucan. Pretty bird. Pretty cool bird, all right, very tropical. We saw crab-eating foxes almost every location we went to, all right, and I guess they do. They eat crabs. I mean, it's a wetland, so that's one of their food sources that they can pick up on. And then these guys were really cute. This is probably the best. We had them everywhere we went as well, but this is probably one of the best looks we had was at this place. And this is an Azara's capuchin. I don't even know who Azara is, but there was a bunch of things named Azara this, Azara that, and I don't. All right, but these guys were pretty cool. I did not catch this, but my family tells me, yes, they were definitely doing this. They'd give you the eyebrow. They'd look at you and kind of go, and I'm like, really? I'd never saw it. Like, no, they were all swearing that the monkey did this. And I was like, okay, all right. So pretty cool to see these guys. So we're a bunch of happy campers. Food was good everywhere we went. I mean, most of the lodgings are very, very simple but clean. You know, they're kind of converted ranch houses and facilities for the ranch. But really good food, pretty much everywhere we went. That's Adrian there, and Igor is on the right talking to him. He was kind of the guy running the show. But you could hardly eat a meal without something happening, and people are like, oh, there's something right out the door, and you'd be like halfway eating, like, oh, I got to go see this, right? So you'd run out. In this case, it was a great rufous woodcreeper. These are birds that kind of like woodpeckers in a way. They often are in the trees and picking through stuff. But this guy happens to like to be on the ground feeding. And so, my clicker is delayed here. Okay. And so he was actually in there, and he's kind of chasing stuff, and he's flicking things around, throwing things around, and then catching a bug. So he's just digging around and looking for things, and that's how he feeds. All right. This is a rufous-bellied thrush. Does anybody recognize, like, do you have a local friend that might look something like that? Anybody know birds? Robinesque, yes, it's like our American robin. And a robin is a thrush. It's in the thrush family, and they're actually in the same genus. So yes, it's very closely probably related to our American robin. And what I love about this too is this is the national bird of Brazil. You think about all the crazy birds they have and some of the spectacular birds, like I've already showed you some, and they do this kind of humble rufous-bellied thrush as their national bird. Because it's pretty widespread throughout most of Brazil is my understanding, so that might be one of the reasons that they did that. So hey, let's go out for a walk here at the Puce Alegre, and here we've got a Chaco Chacalaca, pretty close, and in a blooming ipe tree, so that's pretty spectacular. We did spend a lot of time, this is the part that, for at least a couple of my kids, this gets burdensome to them. When we go out and we're trying to find birds, and Fisher would do different calling and different techniques to get bird, but some of these birds are truly spectacular, all right? Like this red-billed scythebill, right? I mean, look at the beak on this thing, all right? And we got to see these in many locations, and they use that beak to probe deep into tree cavities, tangles of leaves, things like that, and extract things out. So pretty cool. This is another type of monkey we got to see, a black-tailed marmoset, and that's the best picture I was able to procure of a black. They are fairly small, not much bigger than squirrels. They're always way the heck up in the trees, and they are moving. And in this case, there was a lot of backlighting and everything, so we saw them a bunch of different times and places, but man, getting a picture was, and even my son failed. And my son, I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures for my son. He nailed some great shots, but even he didn't get black-tailed marmosets, all right? Black-fronted nunbird, we had a lot of these guys. Now, this is something I'd always wanted to see. All my trips to Costa Rica, everything. Can you see what I'm looking at? Can you see what we're trying to find? This is one of the reasons we were on this walk, all right? And if you know right there's something, right? And a little closer, all right? The photographers are like, woo-hoo-hoo, we're going crazy, we're happy as can be, all right? And because it is a great potu. All right, this is related to nightjars. I don't know if you know, like whippoorwills, things that they fly around at night. Sometimes they're being called goat suckers. they have mistaken it. They used to suck goat milk out of the goats at night. Also sometimes called frog mouths. They have really large mouths that they fly around at night and catch large moths and things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, couldn't believe this. There was actually 2 of them up there. My niece Lauren was the spotter. She was really good at spotting them. I think this is the second one. And later we got another one at a different location on a branch. So really cool. They sleep during the day, they hunt at night. But if you look, here's the little beak. But you can see where the line of the mouth is, right? So little beak, line of the mouth, and that thing opens up huge to be able to catch big insects at night. Okay, so that was like, we were really excited. We did actually also get the common potu, although we never got to see a common potu, which is the one more typical. The common potu has this guy kind of makes like a at night, and the common potu goes like he's laughing at your son, probably because you can't find him. All right, I don't know, but so back to the Trans-Pantanal. So we're on that now. We're going to be shooting down the Porte de Joffre to get on the boats and go out. You know, you got to have some highway construction on any road, right? During the summertime, that's the fact of life anywhere you go, right? I mean, yeah. You know, they've got some signs for the wildlife. All right. Adrian was trying to get us to get down faster. We made a lot of stops at all sorts of other things that were cool, and he was like, "We got to get down to the place before dark and whatever." And this is one of the bridges, one of the 120 bridges. This is one of the bigger ones, right? It's, you know, really high tech looking, you know, but they were safe enough, I guess. So, but we were here. Now, some of us were like, these are photo ops for the sunset and all that. Yeah, I mean, come on, real people. We're out there shooting, you know, taking pictures. There was these birds called Nakunda nighthawks, which is related to the potus as well. Again, they're chasing insects at night. Bunch of different stuff was swarming around out there, which was pretty cool. Later in the trip, we actually got to see nighthawks on the ground. So this just tells you how well, similar to the potu, right? They just blend in to wherever they are. Another thing I want you to know on the let's see, where's this picture? All right, is that snail shell back there. All right, and there's these wetlands that are full of these snails, and you can see another snail shell down here on the bottom right. I keep thinking I better show it on this thing, right? So fairly large snails, all right, and these turn out to be the food for a bird called the snail kite. All right, and we have the snail kite in the Everglades as well. It's an endangered species in Florida, all right, but they're really common in Pantanal. And if you look, this is a juvie or maybe a female. This is an adult. Look at the beak. Look at that pointy tip end there, right? So they are specially designed to extract the snail from the shell. All right, they grab the snail with the claw, they reach in, and that just plucks out the snail meat from the snail. So that's how they survive. All right. Now this is a smooth-billed ani. Nothing spectacular about this bird per se. They're cool to see and everything. But what I really took this picture for was to show you the amount of dust on the vegetation. These are not brown leaves. That's the amount of dust from the roadside and the road edge. It was very dry, very dusty while we were there. But again, most of this land around here is private land, and it's for raising horses and cows. All right. You see a lot of wading birds out here as well. All right, these cows are actually the Indian Brahmin type, I think is what they're called. All right, and that's because they can deal with the monsoon-like conditions. When it's really, really wet, they are able to survive in water levels and things, where I guess a lot of other cows aren't really good with water, at least deep water, but these guys, they're adapted to that coming out of India. All right, now, was there some caimans around? You know, the largest gathering of caimans in the world, all right? And of course, they're related to your alligators and your crocodiles, all right? But also what's cool is you look at the back, all right? There's a kokai heron there. There's a spoonbill. That's probably a snowy egret. There's some wood storks over. There's probably like 5 or 6 species of waders hanging out in the background there. But let's focus on the caiman a little bit more. I mean, yeah, just a few, just a few caiman. All right, I love this guy over here on the far left. He's just like, you know, like he's, I don't know, yawning or intimidating somebody, or I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, there was some caiman around. All right. These guys get relatively, I think, 6 to 8 feet. Caimans are typically a little smaller than like your alligators or crocs, but I think these are some of the bigger caimans. There's a caiman in Costa Rica that maybe only gets 4 or 5 feet. I think these guys are a little bit bigger. So quite a crowd of caimans. But lots of great herons and waders that are feeding in these places. All right, I actually don't know how they survive with all these caiman around. One thing I found, I was like, why aren't there more turtles? You know, you think it's a giant wetland, there should be tons of turtles. There's very few turtles. But think about it. You're trying to survive with pools of caiman. I mean, you're a baby turtle. You're a snack to a caiman. So there's not a lot of turtles, all right? Black-crowned night heron, this is a spoonbill with a green ibis in the background there. The spoonbills are fantastic birds. You'll see some more coming up down the line. They actually have a bill shaped like a spoon. They use that to filter feed, all right, in the water. Pretty birds, all right? This is a kokai heron, actually caught a fish. This poor unfortunate fish, that same type of fish we saw got caught again and again and again by things, all right? But this guy, he should have eaten a little faster. He was a little too like, look at the big fish I caught, look at the big fish I caught. And a great blackcock came in and stole it from him. Now, I missed the great shot of it because I was too busy. All of a sudden, they're like, oh my God, that great, I'm like, what? And I got it flying away with the fish after it took it from the heron. But now this is a sunbittern, and it's a great name for a great bird. Again, Costa Rica, I've seen these in Costa Rica. They are always the most shy, reclusive, hard to find critters. They're usually in like deep wood gallery forests of streams and things. And like they get a nice look at one, you're like, okay, that was cool. They were just like roadside, hanging out, whatever. All right, you might be like, well, why is it called the sunbittern? All right, and here's one that Joe got that I hate him for, that my son. All right, he's got my old gear. I got the newest, fanciest gear, and I can't get the shots he's getting with my old crappy gear. I don't get it. All right, it's not about the gear, it's about the skill, apparently. All right, so the sunbittern, this one, he went chasing after a crab, or he was trying to escape with his little crab or something. So this is what a sunbittern looks like with its wings out. Yeah, that's pretty spectacular. Can you see a little crab or something sticking out of his beak there? So Joe managed, he was just sitting there patiently. He's like, I got to get a picture of the wings. And he was trying to get a picture of the potus yawning or something. He was really hoping one would just yawn and open that huge mouth and get a picture. He sat there waiting, but it never happened for him that time. But it was a good idea. So that's the sunbittern, pretty cool. All right, so we head all the way down. We're at Porto Joffre, which is the end of the road. The road ends, all right? I think originally it was supposed to have a bridge and go over maybe, but it just never materialized, all right? And so we're going to be on all these different rivers, all right, checking for jaguars mostly is what our goal is here. But there's lots of capybaras around, literally just on the hotel grounds, chilling out. And I don't know, there's something with capybaras, and the young people might know more than I do about the capybaras. Capybaras are big, right? And so my son was like, I got pictures of capybara, you know, like so. All right, so we got some pictures of that. We had great sunsets, great sunrises every day. This is the sunrise. We're getting ready to go, getting ready to head out. Lots of different critters on the rivers. This is a Jabiru stork. I think it's the largest stork in the world, if I remember correctly. You know, real beasts. I mean, look at that beak. You don't want to be a fish dealing with that beak, I don't think. Lots of other great birds. This is a group of peach-fronted parakeets. I mean, the number of birds, over 200 species. You know, people get tired when I do birds, but man, I got to show you some birds because my goodness, there was a lot of birds, and that's something that entertains you when maybe you're not seeing jaguars at the moment. You can watch the birds. All right. So this is a black-collared hawk. They're kind of like our osprey locally. They're fish eaters. A lot of the birds are fish eaters down there. It makes sense. There's a lot of fish and things to eat. This guy's actually picking a fish apart. You can see some scales on his beak there. You're never far from caiman. There's always some caiman lurking around somewhere. You're always going to have a caiman somewhere. All right, but this was kind of an unexpected treat. All right, there's a neotropical otter. This is not the giant river otter. But this guy, the first day out, we happened to come across, and he gave us a little show eating looks like a crab or something again. And, you know, came out on a log and was hanging out. I was like, wow, this is really cool. All right, I've never even seen a local river otter, which really ticks me off. Because I got all sorts of people that have, and I'm like, I've been out so much, I've never seen a river otter locally. So that's the neotropical otter. All right, I'm going to talk more about black skimmers down the line, but again, just all sorts of birds on these little river banks and sandbars and islands, yellow-billed terns, a lot of different types of terns. All right, this is a yellow-collared Amazon, which is a type of macaw, you know, a large parrot. I think we saw like a dozen species of parakeets and parrots and macaws and things like that, I think was the final number. But then we finally got the giant river otter. All right, I looked up some facts because I was like, man, look at the bow wave these guys are making. All right, and not to mention, look at those teeth. You don't want to be on the wrong end of the giant river otter, I guess, which is mostly fish, right? But look at it's creating a wave around it. So I said, they got to be going. So 9 miles per hour is apparently top speed for a giant river otter, which apparently is about 2 times faster than Michael Phelps can swim. So that's just one weird fact I picked up before heading here. All right. So they're swimming around. They're doing this crazy stuff, and they got their teeth barred. But one of the, I mean, look at the bow wave that guy's creating. So this is going to have some sound, all right, and it's a little video clip. So they travel as a family pack, roaming around together. They're kind of considered like the wolf pack of the river. But what happens is they'll get separated. They're also very selfish, apparently. They'll apparently take the fish. If they catch a fish, they go off with it on their own, and they kind of lodge it in somewhere, and they eat it. And they don't really share. They're not like a wolf pack bringing down something and sharing together. They apparently catch the fish and go off on their own. So then they get separated. And this was our family call. If we got separated any time, we would do this. I'm going to have to turn that up a little bit. Can you hear it? It's a crazy call. So here's another case where they came out. They ended up. Oh, that one didn't run. Let's see. Oh, maybe that's not going to run. Well, I'll save it some time. All right. So basically, same sort of thing. They came out. They were swimming. They kind of went around the boat and under the boat, and then one came up and was just like, they're trying to meet back up with the rest of their group. All right. So here's a group again. This guy looks like he's got some sort of little injury to him somehow. I'm not sure exactly how. But we got to watch these guys, and yeah, they caught fish. They were pretty good at catching fish. This guy was pretty amazing, so this hopefully will run. Again, they're swimming. We're motoring around in a motorboat, and this guy's pretty much cruising with us, carrying that big fish, right? And then he ends up kind of swimming around behind the boat here. I think we'll get him back in a second. There he is. But I mean, that's a powerful swimming critter there. All right. So yeah, this was on the first day. This guy caught one. He was off in the grasses and hyacinths and things here. Just look at those teeth. All right, just chewing along. And you know, once you got one with a fish, man, you're gonna motor drive. And I'm sorry, I got way too many pictures of a lot of these things, so I'll move through these pretty fast. All right, but you know, here he is swimming again, like more fish, all right, because they're hungry, you know. And according to the Americas, when I was watching that with Tom Hanks on NBC, 8 pounds of fish per day is needed for a giant otter to eat. They're a 6 foot long otter. They're truly giants. All right. So here's another guy, another day, caught another fish, and he's just chomping away. He's quite happy about his fish. All right. And like I said, they kind of go to shore. Sometimes they wedge it amongst things that really go at it. This guy's holding it pretty good. Look at the webbing on the feet. But he's chewing away, and then, oddly enough, this guy's nearby, and he's kind of like, yo, can I have some fish? You know, I don't know, I like some fish too. And our guide was telling us like he's never seen them share a fish. And it ends up, this guy got the fish from the other guy. Like, it wasn't even a fight. It kind of looked like they shared it. So this guy got kind of the fish head at the end. Maybe it wasn't the choicest cut, I don't know, but he sat there and chewed on this fish head for quite a bit. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Fish heads are a little lower calorie than the rest of the body. So, anyways, he's got some stuff stuck in his teeth there. You notice he got some fish in his teeth there, but he seemed to really be relishing it, enjoying it quite a bit. Look, he's sucking down a little morsel there. All right. Ooh, yeah, tasty. All right. So the other cool thing is we got to see their dens. So they're a family unit. They keep the young in the den until they're big enough to go roam around and patrol with them. All right, so very early one morning, we ended up outside the den, and they were hanging out. And for some reason, these little gray-cowled wood rails, which I'll show you one of those closer here, this little guy was like a little friend with them. He was hanging out with them and chilling out. You might also notice in the background here that there is a camera. All right, that's a camera trap. So there is a group that studies these guys. All right, and you can actually, let me show you a different picture here. You can tell by their chest colors and the pattern on their chest, you can tell individuals apart. And we're going to talk about that when we get to jaguars as well. Jaguars, you can tell by individual spot pattern, different jaguars. Okay, so they're identifiable. All right, so guess what? Of our big four here, bing, we got the giant river otter, right? We've succeeded in that angle. All right, now speaking of fish, all right, Food was very good. Also, these are catfish nuggets. Surprisingly, and that's okra. If you don't know okra, I like okra. But for people that, for a place that grows a lot of beef, the beef was not not the beef down there anywhere. And I guess the Indian Brahmin, I don't know. But the fish was incredible. All right. So this is a pacu. Which like halfway through the trip, the Brazilian guide actually showed me how to deal with it. There's a big bone, and you take it out, and he was just like, so you take your fork, you go, and the fish, I'm sitting there like, and he's like, he just goes, oh, okay, that's nice. All right, so really great food. I mean, I had two, my oldest son's not a teenager anymore, but he still eats like a teenager. So, I mean, there was enough food for everybody. It was great. Had some really cool desserts. So, yeah, we ate, all right. And so back out to the boats, what we do is typically go out in the morning. We'd have breakfast, go out, come back at lunch, go back out for an afternoon, evening cruise, all right, and then come back for a lovely dinner. Of course, it's getting dark at 6 o'clock there. Tropics, it's like a 6 to 6 type of window usually, all right. But this is still we're still dealing with the first morning here, all right. We're some very happy people. There was one other guy staying at the place we were staying, and he took this picture of us. He was in another boat, but one morning we got the tapir, all right? This happens to be the female tapir. This is the male tapir. I won't get into how you know. Maybe you can figure that out. But anyways, and so he's bigger. I mean, so this is a weird critter, right? They've got this kind of weird nose. And these two were a pair, and they ended up going up the riverbank and disappearing up in the bushes together. But we were like, yay, tapir. Now, it turns out that wasn't truly our first tapir. Our first tapir was on the road the day before, going down along the Transpanera. We found this little guy in a mud hole. But this is shot through the van window, and it's just not as scenic as that other one. So I didn't want to start with that. But he was cute. He was hanging out. He was taking a little mud bath and trying to avoid the flies and such. But we didn't want to get out and disturb him, so we were all just looking through the windows and taking pictures of the windows. All right, so guess what? Brazilian tapir. Yay. Got it. All right. So guess what? Yes, we got it. So this is the day one, and this is actually pretty early in day one, where you already had this Jaguar. Her name was T. She's a female, all right? And you might be saying, well, how do you know it's T and so forth? This is one of my son's pictures that he had a smaller camera, actually, with some of my older gear, and he took this picture and did some, photoshopping, whatever. So, yeah, we're pretty happy. We're getting some Jaguars. There's a group down there, the Jaguar Identification Project. They put out this field guide as like a fundraiser every year and so forth. Marcella is the cover Jaguar that year, but we got to see Marcella, all right, as well. And so they have this guide that kind of goes through all the ones that are commonly seen, all right. And so just a few quick facts about Jaguars, all right. They are in the U.S. You can get Jaguars in Arizona, New Mexico, and down into Mexico, but up here it's very, very few, if any. Border walls are an issue for part of it and mixing. But they are considered a near-threatened species by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. I think that's the IUCN. All right. But the Pantanal is like a stronghold for them. It's estimated between 4,000 to 7,000 Jaguars are there. It is the third largest cat in the world, biggest cat in America. Third largest cat in the world, only smaller than lions and tigers. All right. They range anywhere from 90 to 350 pounds. So like when they're thick, like in the thick Amazon rainforest type of thing, those tend to be smaller cats. There's not as much to eat, harder to get food. In the Pantanal, they're the big ones. They're the 300, 350 pounders because they have a lot of food resources there. All right, and they're very aquatic. A lot of cats aren't so big on water. These guys love water. All right, they hunt in the water. They swim all the time. All right, and they've got the strongest bite of any mammal, supposedly. So I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna want to mess with these. We put Kopernik directors' heads in there. All right. So this is our second Jaguar of the day, Valente. She's a female, and look at her. She's just hanging out. She looks like my cat at home, just kind of like hanging out and swiping at things and laying on the ground and rolling around and doing things. All right. And she gave us quite a show. She's walking around and doing things, going on logs, prowling around. I mean, just a fantastic creature, all right? And, I mean, that's kind of menacing looking there, but man, so pretty, right? And so she ends up at one point, she kind of lays down here, and we're like, oh, what's she doing? What's she looking at, whatever? And she kind of gets at one point, she's looking over kind of intently in the bushes, and we're like, well, what's going on? Do you see what's going on? Marquez shows up, all right? He's a male, all right? You might can go from there. All right. So yeah, so he was very bashful. He was very shy. He did not. He like tended to lurk in the bushes. He did not tend to come out much. All right. And she was just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm here. You're over there. You know, whatever. She's laying back down again. He's like giving his best smolder look from the bushes here, right? And so, you know, eventually they started walking around together. They were very discreet, though. They went up in the bushes. We heard some roaring, all right? And then they'd come back down, and she decided to take a little bath afterwards, I guess. And he's on the shoreline hanging out, and she's taking her bath. Clicked OK. And then, you know, she does her little shake off here. Look at those teeth in there. All right? There's some teeth for you. So she shakes off, and she's happy again. And they got back together again for a little bit, and they end up disappearing in the bushes. And yay, this is actually our pee stop. Because you're out in the boat all morning, and you're like, okay. And meanwhile, you're going up there to pee, and there's like jaguar tracks and all sorts of other stuff. And you're kind of thinking, oh, okay, this could be interesting. So we were pretty happy. We're doing good. All right, we've got our jaguars. All right, but the day's not even done yet. I mean, this is still the first morning, actually. All right, and so we got another female called Marcella. She was the cover one, remember? And she went into the tall grasses and reeds and stuff here, and we just heard crunch. And you can just see there's the eye of the caiman. All right, she caught this caiman. It took her no time at all, and it wasn't even a struggle. That bite strength, she just, that was it. It was done. This one was a fairly small one, and Joe again, was the only one that got the picture. He was standing in the back of the boat and just had enough of an angle to get over and get it. And we could kind of see it, and she kind of went off with it, but that was it. It was a very quick hunting spree that we got to see. But then we came across our 5th jaguar. You tired of jaguars yet? I'm not. All right. So Patricia, all right, is there, and she's going along, and we got to follow her around quite a bit. She's kind of motoring around. She's swimming. You know, they do a lot of swimming. Again, they're very good swimmers. She ends up going up into a reed bed. We hear crunch. And out she comes with a much bigger caiman than Marcella had gotten. All right, and I mean, this is a pretty sizable caiman. It's probably at least the length of her, probably pretty heavy, but she acts like this is no issue whatsoever. So here's a little video. My wife was great. She grabbed my son's phone. She was taking lots of footage, if we could, with some video. So you see her carrying this. She looks like she's breathing a little hard there, but she's really not having too many issues. You know, I mean, think about it. She swam into there, chomped the caiman. Like I said, there was really not any noticeable struggle. It was done in no time. So she ends up kind of carrying this guy along the bank until she got a spot she could exit. And this is her going up the bank with this caiman. And you can kind of see it, you know, it's between her legs and as long as her. And she just went right up this steep bank carrying that caiman, no issues. I love her foot pad here too. So we're getting hungry now. It's time for lunch. You know, we're headed back, and guess what? We ran into another jaguar. My gosh, egads. All right, so this is Bernard. All right, and Bernard was just kind of chilling out and getting a little drink here and hanging out. Here's me taking pictures of Bernard. All right, and my son, one of the ways to entertain my son, he's not the biggest nature nut, the younger one. So we got him this 360 camera before we went. So you're going to see some pictures from the 360 camera. So this is us when we were actually looking at Bernard. You can just maybe make out Bernard down there and me taking pictures of Bernard. So pretty cool to see that. All right, so guess what? Yeah, we got jaguar. All right, so when you're not getting jaguars, there's still lots of great stuff. So a lot of times the afternoons were a little quieter. We wouldn't necessarily get stuff. So on our later afternoon cruise, you know, we got to watch this Toco toucan quite a bit. Got some nice shots of him doing stuff, which is pretty cool. And then there's a kokai heron with an ant tree. And then we had something completely unexpected. This is another member of the weasel family called a tyra. I'd always wanted to see these in Costa Rica, but in the thick jungle is very hard. And actually, our guide Fisher's like, he's, you know, again, lived in Brazil his whole life. I think he said maybe it's the 3rd or 4th one he'd ever seen. So we just totally lucked out. And how even spot? We're just going up the river in the boat, and he just, he just all of a sudden, he noticed it. And we're taking it. And this is really late at night. But this guy was going down in these routes and trying to find stuff to eat. Again, he's a guy. I know that. All right, so I'm a biologist, people. I know these things, right? So anyways, so, I was like amazed that we got to see this guy at all. So got a little look at this guy. We weren't sure what the markings were about, if they all have a lot of variation or not, because it seems like this would be something that you could probably tell individual tyras with as well. So the next morning, we're out again, all right? And we come across T again, all right? The little R means a repeat. It's a repeat Jaguar for one, But I believe this picture, my daughter is unbelievable. She can actually take pictures with her phone through her binoculars. I don't know how the heck she does it. Holds steady enough to do it and so forth. But this, I'm pretty sure, is her picture through binoculars of T yawning at us that day, all right? And then giving us the, I don't know what that is. She's a little grumpy this morning, I guess. But, she's just typical cat. She decides she's going to lay down and she's going to groom and, looks just like my cat, licking parts there, and just kind of hanging out, gives a nice look. Then decide to do some morning yoga. If you know your cat-cow pose for yoga, right? There it is. There's the cat pose. All right, so pretty cool. And then we went up the river a bit, and then we ran into Patricia again. So we're like, okay, this is great. But she disappeared pretty quick on us, all right? So again, you watch other birds, you watch other things. You watch the wood storks and the ringed kingfishers and the great kiskidees. But then we found her again. We just kind of, the guides know, they're just kind of cruising. They know, like, oh, she's working her way up this way. She's going to pop back out somewhere, all right? And so we got back on her again, all right? And we're watching her, and she's moving along, and she's swimming, and she's doing all sorts of things. And you might notice she's got kids, all right? She's active with kids. So she's probably hunting so she can produce milk and go feed the kids. Here she is swimming again, and she's just patrolling around trying to find something to eat probably. But we got to follow her for quite a while. She's doing all sorts of things like the big yawns here. Has a crazy tongue too, right? But stalking along, looking for things, and then we were like, okay, this could get interesting. She's patrolling along this bank. We'd moved quite a ways up the river, kind of waiting for her and watching where she was. All right, eventually she came across this little sandbar and stuff, and we kind of kept working our way up. And there was 2 capybaras. Now, honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to see it. If my daughter had seen this happen, it probably would have been like, oh boy. All right, she was working her way up, and these capybaras were there, and we're like, oh boy, this could get interesting. And by the way, this is a male capybara. They have this large gland on the nose there. All right, that's how you can know a male capybara. I guess he does scent marking and different things with that. But what happened is she came along, and I don't think she was really hunting that much. And the capybaras were way onto her way before. And they're excellent swimmers. They have 3 toes, and they have webbing between them. I'll show you a picture of that down the line here. But you're going to watch. We're going to be blathering and talking, and Adrian's going to be narrating a bunch of stuff. But she's going to come along, and the capybaras have already jumped in the water, and they're swimming out. And then it's going to do an alarm call. So you're going to get to hear the alarm call. So maybe we got to turn up the sound a little bit on the video part for the moment here.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. Wow, they were really aware of her.
Oh, see, look how much in the open she was.
Like I said, they were already in the water, gone, way before she appeared again.
Where'd they go?
They're under. They can stay
Right here in front of
They
us.
can stay 5 minutes underwater. Now watch them. They're going to be.
Here's me
crawling
taking
now.
the picture.
There you go.
And there's your capybara warning call. You're going to hear it again in a second. So, calling out and giving the alarm. There's me taking the picture of making the alarm call there. So, some big incisors there. So that's rodent incisors for you. Okay? So, hey, again, if you're not getting jaguars, there's vermilion flycatchers to look at. There's little friends hanging out. Black collared hawk again here with the great kiskadee. All right? Now, we went up the river ways. This was in the evening at this point. It was kind of interesting because one of the times we saw a jaguar, we didn't actually get pictures of this guy. He was in the spot we'd taken our bathroom break the morning before. We're like, isn't that the place we were in for the morning bathroom break? Yep, there's the jaguar in that area. Like, okay, that's interesting. All right, so we're going upstream, and we get this kokai heron, and he's caught that same fish again. It looks like the exact same fish from the last picture. And Adrian's sitting there going, he's going to fly soon. Get ready. He's going to fly soon. I missed it. But guess who got it? My son got this great picture of the heron flying off with the fish. All right. Darn you, Joe. All right. Out shooting me. All right. So anyways, we got back that night. I've only ever seen a barn owl maybe one time. We're sitting out there hanging out. I think the kids are showing Fisher how to do like Lightroom and stuff. No, like photo editing stuff in Lightroom on their phones. And all of a sudden, Adrian's like, I heard a barn owl. I'm like, what? It's like, no, I swear I heard an owl. And I'm like, okay. He gets out his tape. He plays the barn owl call. In comes the barn owl. It's like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, when you have great guides, you're just going to see great stuff. So, you know, it's surprisingly not that many lizards and things. We got some snakes and things, but very few iguanas. This was one of the iguanas we got to see. But you know what? Your caiman they're always around. You're going to always get to see some caiman. Almost any time, they're always available. This guy, I don't know. I think he's just really mad because this guy's biting his head. This green fly is like probably. It looks like he's full of blood there. So he's chomping on this poor guy. No, I think he's probably thermoregulating or something. But yeah, that's some teeth on that guy. All right. So, what am I going to next? Oh yeah. So actually, our last day out, we'd done all this stuff in the morning and gotten a lot of stuff, but we weren't seeing any jaguars. And it was kind of, oh my God, we're going to strike out on jaguars today? This is horrible. All right. And then all of a sudden the call came in and like, here was Marcella again, and she was on the shore. And this was getting close to the lunch break, and this was the first jaguar that had been seen that morning on the river. So it was a melee. Every boat from everywhere came, all right, and it got really busy. She didn't seem to care. She was doing her thing. She was laying on the log, chilling out. Clicker go, all right, and doing some different stuff here. I've got a clicker delay going here. Let's see. Okay. I think this one my daughter took again through her binocular camera technique. No, it was this one that she did that one. I'm just like, and that one too, I think. So crazy, right? But the boats were, yeah, it was paparazzi for Mars. I mean, and you know, some of these people maybe were only here for the day, or maybe maybe they hadn't even had a jaguar yet, or whatever. But man, everybody showed up for her because that was the only one in the river at that point in the day. So you see all sorts of very fancy cameras and some not so fancy cameras, but you know, even with a regular point and shoot for the most part, you could still get good pictures. So yeah, it's a boat jam. That boat in the far back, that's actually like a houseboat that people stay in and then just do excursions from the houseboats. But again, she didn't really seem to care. She was unfazed. She was going down logs. She was going into hyacinths. We thought, man, she's going to catch something for sure, because just the way she seemed to be hunting. But she didn't. She ended up kind of disappearing on us, and she ended up in the river swimming across. It was kind of a juncture of the rivers, and she was swimming across right in between all the boats. Just swam across and totally unfazed, didn't care. On the way back, though, to lunch, we got word of another jaguar. So this was our 7th jaguar, Pollyanna. Pollyanna has 2 female cubs that are 2 years old. They're getting ready to be on their own. And so this was actually Madalena, who is one of her cubs. We couldn't find the second one. She must have been further back in. And she was quite a ways apart from her, but she was up on this bank. So we were kind of like in the boat, and she was up there on the bank, which was like, you know, okay. We were far enough away. We got big lenses, so we're okay. But that was pretty cool. And then that night, our last jaguar was this big male Inca, who came out for just a little bit. We got him walking along. But so that was 12 different observations of jaguars of 9 different individuals in the time we were there, over 3 days, which was pretty crazy, So, yeah, we definitely got jaguar. All right, so we're missing giant anteater still, but we're gonna have to take some diversions. I'm gonna have to blow through some of this stuff because we're getting, we got a lot to cover. There's my son with his 360 stick. What was really cool, so that's one of the pictures he got with that. It's just crazy what that thing can do. Of us kind of cruising into the sunset, you know. But what I really loved about it too is if you watch this little quickie clip, that's my niece taking pictures, you'll see all these things flying around on the water's surface. They're basically they're lesser bulldog bats, and they're band-tailed nighthawks, a different type of nighthawk. So we kind of watch as we're cruising along, see all the things flying along on the surface, all right, catching insects and things. So that was kind of our usual day on the river. So we go to this next place, Santa Teresa, all right, and I'm going to have to motor a little faster. Here's one of our, it's a nice accommodation, it's clean, it's good eating place. There are some frogs living in the rooms with you, all right? They like to hang out in the drains and things, and near the toilets and other things. They're hanging out, but you know what? They're good. They're eating bugs and stuff in your room. To me, that's like, hey, yeah, that's great. So this is in the girls' room. They have this cute little frog, all right? I came back from lunch on our first day, and the room was dark, and I went in, and I thought my wife had maybe dropped like a charging cord or something on the ground there, and I was about to go grab it, and I said, well, maybe decided to turn the light on. I was kind of glad I did, because this is actually what was in my room. And this is something, so it's a small snake in my room, and I guess I'm being pretty bold here. I mean, this is something you do with really expensive camera gear. You can also tame snakes with it. So I kind of scooted him or her out the door. It's a beautiful snake. It's called a parrot snake. Maybe we'll come up here. Let's go, click, click, click. We're stymied. There it is. All right. So really, really cute snake, and they're harmless. They're not venomous or anything, and they climb up in the bushes and things like that. So then we're heading to this place is known for its ocelot blind. All right. So an ocelot's a small type of cat. All right. On the way to the blind, though, we came across this rufous-tailed Jaguar, and some of you might know, and I couldn't figure out, he kept opening his beak, and he was doing like this weird, but I'm like, what is he doing? What is going on with this guy? And he was making these weird contortions. I don't know if I really knew it, but you probably all know about owls and owl pellets, right? They cough up indigestible stuff. Well, it turns out the Jaguars do this. They eat a lot of insects and bugs and stuff, and the exoskeletons are kind of nasty, so they will also regurgitate a pellet. And so I'm motor driving on this guy doing all these weird contortions and did not even realize I was going to catch, oh, come on, the pellet coming out. So I can actually animate this for you. There we go. All right, as it coughs up its pellet and it goes off into the bushes. So we can watch it reverse come back. It's a little laggy here, a little laggy. Out it goes, yay. All right, so cute bird though, I love that bird. All right, here's us in the ocelot blind where we were told we gotta be really quiet and we gotta blah, blah, blah. And then some guy shows up and he's making all this noise and we're like, what the heck is this guy? We're all shushing him. Turns out he's the chicken man. All right, he's the guy that goes and puts the chicken on the back of the branches where the ocelot will show up. All right, so I wasn't the biggest fan of this because I'm like, it feels a little zoo-like or something, but it was still pretty cool to see an ocelot. Where you're not, so this ocelot kind of knows to come and get chicken at a certain time of night. And beautiful cat, a lot smaller than Jaguars, all right? But, he climbs up on there, and the chicken containers are sort of on the back of the branch hidden there. So he gets the chicken, and at one point, this guy's got a little bit of a tail injury probably. They're not sure what happened to it, but the tail's a little shorter than it should be. But what a cute cat. And at one point, a crab-eating fox came along, and there was a little scuffle. The ocelot chased the crab-eating fox out of there, did not want it touching his chicken, I guess, or something. So we also got to see a lot of black and gold howlers here. I'm going to kind of move through these quicker. This is a female or a young. This is a male. And these are the guys that really roar, all right? There's a lot of different species of howler monkeys. Again, this is the black and gold, they're called, all right? My daughter likes to sit like this, too. I should have added the picture roasting her doing the same position, but she likes to do that, too. Here's one of those Azaris capuchins again. It happens to be on a termite mound up in a tree, all right? That's a little guy called an agouti, a little rodent, lives in the woods, eats different hard seeds and things, can break into cases. And back out, we did a little river trip there too. All right, so we got caimans, here's a capybara. Notice it's got 3 toes. It's a weird track, and it's got webbed feet. That's why they're really good swimmers, all right, as well as being land animals. Now, this is fishing for birds. I don't know why some of the text is something showing weird on some of these, but fishing for birds, question mark, was the thing. So they took us out. We got these little fish they had, this little bait fish, whatever, and we would throw them out, and the birds would come for them. All right, and once again, Joe did way better photography. He got the black-collared hawk getting the fish. All right, he got the ringed kingfisher coming in and getting the fish. But I got the surprise one that nobody expected, a great kiskadee came, and they're not fish eaters. They grabbed the fish. We're like, what on earth? This great kiskadee. It looks like he could barely carry this fish out of there, but he did. He got the fish and flew away with it. All right, so that was pretty crazy. Off he goes. My clicker's working slow. Peach-fronted parakeets again, drinking water, pretty cool. All right, this is actually one of my favorite shots from the trip. These are lesser kiskadees. I just loved it. I don't know. I got to get this one printed, I think, and stick it somewhere. But this is probably one of my favorite photos of the trip. Even though, yes, we saw jaguars and all sorts of stuff, I just like this one a lot. So, close to one of the last places we stayed, the Pantanal Presentation. All right, remember, this is the one I showed you of the hotel complex with all water surrounding it. That's where the water would be. It's very dry. All right, there's one body of water out there. Again, it's a working farm, a working cattle ranch. There are jaguar on the property. There was actually a jaguar that was frequently roaming around near the buildings. I was a little leery about going out at night, make sure we had lights and stuff. But they're pretty, we didn't get to ever see it. They're not that used to people. They stay pretty clear of people. They're trying to figure out how to decrease, cattle-jaguar interactions, because I think a lot of the ranchers are realizing, though, that this is a big moneymaker for them to keep these things around. So there's some pretty good conservation efforts that way, which is really encouraging. But this was our surprise. We started getting all these crazy alerts. Severe weather alert. And the severe weather alert was because it was going to drop into the 50s. The 50s, people. You'd be happy right now, right, if it was the 50s. All right? But again, if you're used to 80s and 90s, if you hit a 50-degree day in the summer here, you'd be like, wow, this is really cold, And so they have significant threat to life and property. I mean, we're like, what? But you also got to realize, they don't have heating. They don't heat their home. That's not something they have, right? So, and if you're native Brazilian, this is really going to be cold in the 50s. So we were cold. I mean, we didn't have a lot of warm weather gear. Fisher, this guy, man, he's got all sorts of connections. Somehow somebody got him a hat and a marmot jacket down to him at his location there. So he was pretty prepared. And he was still cold. He still thought it was extremely cold. We're putting every darn thing we had on just to try to stay warm in the mornings because it was pretty cold. All right, we stole the blanket from the hotel room. I mean, it was cold. All right, so here's that picture, another picture of Joe with all those critters there. All right. And so we would drive these roads. We got the beautiful puiba trees. It's named the Puival because of all the puiba trees it has on the property. All right. And again, it's a working cattle ranch. So we're driving around the cattle roads and going through gates and stuff like that. Here's a pair of Hyacinth Macaws at dawn. Adrian's trying to drive the truck this way. Get the silhouette of the birds against this. I mean, he was really thinking through photography stuff, which was pretty cool. And so this is our last shot for giant anteater, all right? And what do we see? All right, out there amongst all the termite mines. Oh, is that a termite? I mean, we were seeing this thing way not even this good, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's out there. And they're trying to get us an angle to see this thing better. And he's going through the grass. He's cruising along, all right? And we're trying to maneuver to see it. And then he goes into some really thick brush. And we're like, oh no, he disappeared into the brush. But we were able actually to see him working through the brush a little bit, all right? Oh, look at the snout on that thing, right? So they have these huge, enormous claws, right? They break into termite mounds with, right? And then they use that long snout and a tongue to lick out all the termites. And so we're like, okay, he comes out of the brush. We're like, okay, let's get, oh no, he's still hiding behind all this stuff. We're like, oh, come on. The tail's crazy. The tail's half the length of the animal. It's this huge bushy thing, all right? And we're like, oh, please just come out more in the open. All right, there's a little bit better. He's coming out in the open. And then he finally kind of crossed the track where a bunch of us managed to get a bunch of pictures. If the slide comes up here. I don't know why it's dragging on my clicker. So that's a pretty decent picture of one. And then here's a sequence of, I don't even know whose is whose anymore. But one of these is Victoria through her binoculars again. I can't believe she pulled this off somehow following this. One of them's Joe's, one of them's mine. But what you can see, I think this top or bottom is Joe's. You can see it walks on its wrists because its claws are so long, it can't actually put those on the ground. So you look, it's a very strange looking pattern because the claws are so big. It's got its wrists curled in and walks on that. It's really strange. So we We got the giant anteater. Yeah, all right. Bingo. All right. Now we're flying home on the plane. I'm looking over this guy's shoulder. He's got these amazing giant anteater. He was there for one day, one morning. The giant anteater was like right there in the open in the field, and he like sunrise, and he had this like it's coming at him, and I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes there's just luck, you know. I mean, you gotta be out, and you gotta try to be out, and you know, hopefully see things. But the water hole there was great. Got capybara here, got lots of spoonbills, got the black-necked stilt. And here's the skimmers. I didn't talk much about skimmers yet, but skimmers are really unique. If you look at these guys' bills, the lower mandible, the lower part of the bill is much bigger than the top part of the bill. All right, and what they do is they skim. They fly along the surface of the water, and if that lower bill touches a fish, it instantly snaps shut, and this is how they catch the fish. So they're basically just trawling, and they'll go back and forth on the water like this until they catch a fish. All right. Now, one day we're out. Again, this was the cold morning. We're all like, oh my goodness, it's cold. And it was kind of overcast. One of the first days we had, it was kind of overcast. Joe's laying amongst the cow pats there. And you're like, well, why is he laying there amongst the cow pats? And what is he shooting? Well, just on the other side of the truck there was a burrowing owl. All right. These guys nest in the ground. All right, the young make sounds like rattlesnakes to try to keep things from eating them and going into their burrows. All right, but I thought that was a great picture Joe got. The next day we tried to get a bunch of other pictures, but it was sunny and bright, and the lighting wasn't as good.
Are there rattlesnakes in that area?
It's a good question, actually. As I said that, I'm thinking, I don't know if there are rattlesnakes there. I don't know if there's rattlesnakes in that particular area. I know in Florida, where there's rattlesnakes, they do that. So it might not be a universal thing that all of them do that. But this is what he's sitting on a cow pat here in this one. But there's actually a pair of them there. They were in and out of the burrows quite a bit. But and the one evening, the kids and my wife, they all went horseback riding. And I'm like, I'm going to take pictures. I'm sorry, I can go horseback riding. So they had a great time horseback riding. But I went down, Adrian and I went down, and we were doing some more shooting of spoonbills and things, because this guy was a pretty dramatic breeding plumage guy, and I was trying to get some flight shots. This was one of Joe's. When it was like a snowstorm of pink at times when these guys would all take off together. It was pretty cool. And then this Jaguar I was watching, he caught this eel. Sorry, caught an eel. I don't know what type of eel it is. All right, she's raising eels in her classroom right now. All right, and I mean, it was a kind of a battle. I mean, it took a while for this Jaguar to figure out how to get this eel down. The eel was really like, yeah, I really don't want to go down there. Thank you. All right, I'm going to try to stay out of there. All right, but so it was kind of a prolonged situation, but eventually the eel lost. All right, so again, lots of beautiful Capybaras trees. We did some night stuff as well. I'll show you that in a second. But you know, we were up in a tower at one point, and the macaws came flying through, so it was kind of cool to see them flying across the landscape. And there was a lot of the places we went, there was nesting pairs. So Hyacinth Macaws are also fairly endangered in a lot of parts of the world, but their stronghold is the Pantanal. They have some of the most there of anywhere in the world. Matter of fact, giant river otters as well. I think I was reading, it's estimated there's only 2,000 to 5,000 giant river otters. All right, and a good number of them is in the Pantanal. These birds are really cool. This is the red-legged Seriema. I'm going to blow through a bunch of these. It was calling to each other. They were calling. Look at the crazy legs on this thing. All right, I'm going to click through here because it seems like I'm lagging big time. It's doing a lot of calling here, and I'm going to give you some sound here in a second when we get to the little video clip. This guy was just calling and calling and calling. All right, so here's what they sound like. I'm going to have to hit the sound a little bit on this one again. Calling back and forth to each other. I am. So I don't know how you tell the male from the female, but because I think they look the same. But this guy, I think he's the guy. That's what I'm thinking. And he happened to see some sort of bug up on the end of that pole, and he went and he grabbed it, some sort of like a katydid or a grasshopper or something, not quite sure what it is. And he brought it over to his mate, and he fed it to her. He gave it to her. Isn't that romantic? All right? You guys are here on a cheap date night. I mean, it's like, there you go. All right? So, and then we had greater rays. If you don't know, these guys are flightless birds, kind of, you know, like ostriches and emus and things like that, but they're their own group. And so there's a bunch of these guys around in this place too. And we saw these in various locations as well, but this is one of the best spots. We really got to kind of see them. And there's one in the background there too, hanging out. And then this guy, I forget what this guy's called, black-banded owl, I think it was. So it sounds a lot like our barred owl locally. So he's going to make some sounds here. Ready? He's responding to playback that they did to kind of get him to come in. So we did a lot of owling and night jarring and out at night looking for stuff. So it's pretty cool. And our very last spot, this was the Amara. All right, another lovely little place to stay in. Food was always great, but this is kind of getting near our last meal. On the way into this, the first day, we came across this giant false water cobra. It's like about a 6-7 foot snake, not venomous. All right, not dangerous, but it was a good-sized snake. And it was pretty cool to see that. We saw a lot of jaguar tracks here as well, but we never did see one here. All right, but again, cruising the roads at night, getting pictures of things, and we managed to get another tamandua. So we had to start with the tamandua pretty early, and we ended with the tamandua up in a tree. We kind of had that guy pretty lit up. I'm surprised how well that picture came out because it was pretty dark at that point. So we're all pretty happy. We're all pretty happy. But this is our last meal, our last dinner. Before we were heading out, we stopped at a Brazilian steakhouse. This was our meal before we left, where the steak was very good there. I think this was the the fancier steaks that you get, and they come around just carving meat and big things of meat. I mean, it was pretty good. And so here we're at the airport, and I think these guys are smiling more than they smiled the whole time because they're finally getting rid of the Lamoureux. All right, they're finally getting rid of the Lamoureux. But Jackson and Fisher really hit it off. Like I said, Jackson was kind of teaching them Lightroom at times, and Jack was off in the back of the boat just shooting the stuff with Fisher because he's not always into stuff as much. But we had a great trip with these guys. I mean, fantastic trip. So we got the big four. What did we miss? All right, you were paying attention. Good to see. Yeah, we did not get an anaconda. And it turns out they're not they're there, but they hide so well. They're really hard to see. I think Adrian Fisher together, when they've been doing these trips, I think they said they've seen 2 or maybe 3 in all the trips. One time a big one was crossing the road. Another time they were on the river, and it was on one of those edges of the river, just kind of basking on it. So they're there, but they're not easy to see. So had to get our family shot with a Puival tree. This one became our Christmas card for that year. All right. And so what I'd like to say here in the end is, like, I'm the captain of the boat here, I guess. Mateys, I hope you had a great trip. All right, venturing to the Pantanal with me. And if you got any questions or anything, I'd be happy to take some.
What I do is I take the microphone, and if you have questions, then you can repeat them on live.
Oh, yeah, or I can repeat them if you want.
All right.
Yeah, I know. Now nobody wants to talk.
Do you have a
I'm
question?
going to hand him a
Wait.
microphone.
So you mentioned that there is a giant false water cobra. Can we take that to mean that there is an actual giant water cobra that the false water cobra is like a mimic of?
That's a great question. You want to help me out on that? I would assume so, but I don't think there is. And there's not even cobras down there, so I don't know why they call it the giant false water cobra, honestly. It's a little bit, I was telling my students today, there's an Antarctic krill, and the Antarctic krill is the base of the food chain in Antarctica. So I always assumed, well, if there's an Antarctic krill, there must be an Arctic krill. There's not. The whole food chains up in the Arctic are based on just, phytoplankton, the smaller fish, the bigger fish type of thing, while the Antarctic's full of these krill. I always assumed, well, there's an Antarctic krill, there must be. But there's not, apparently. So, yeah, thanks for stumping me.
Any other questions here? We'd have a question from the chat. Mike asks, is the Pantanal as endangered as the Amazon rainforest or the Pampas? Is Brazil and or Bolivia actively trying to preserve these areas?
Well, so that's a great question. Like I kind of said at the beginning, most of this is private inholdings. There is a Jaguar reserve sort of in the center area there, near the major rivers, but most of the properties are private. And so it's really now one of these situations where ecotourism is probably what's going to be saving it. You know, because they're making a livelihood of people coming, they are doing a lot more to preserve things and keep these things because it's a good industry for them. And matter of fact, I've been wanting to do this trip for a very long time. Adrian actually gave our Naturalist Club a talk during COVID. I was able to rope him in because, of course, you could go remote and he could come in from anywhere and do it. So we had him give a talk, and I mean, I wanted to do a talk because I was really interested in doing it. And then it took several years for me to finally pull the trigger and do it. In the in-between times, you might have heard there's been some horrific fires in the Pantanal. Because it's so dry, some of the fires have been really bad. When we were there was a small fire that got started. It was apparently a training exercise. The Brazilian military was in there when they were conducting some stuff to help suppress fires and then accidentally started a fire. That's my understanding of it. I don't know. But it's not really officially protected in a lot of ways, and it's probably going to be protected mostly because it's an ecotourism thing. Amazon is probably, I would say, in some ways more endangered because I don't know how much, actual preservation there is there, and it's still being heavily deforested as far as I understand it.
All right. Another question from, is it Damien or Damiana? Good evening. Do you know, what does Pantanal mean?
Oof. It's a great question. I do not know.
No?
I do not know.
Um,
I'll have to look that one up because I probably should know that. But I never ever said it meant anything to me, so I don't know.
So I have a couple questions. Like I use the Merlin bird app,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming that doesn't really work down down there, or does it?
I'm trying to think if I used it much down there. I think I did try it a few times. The Merlin bird app is increasing coverage like crazy. I mean, it really is expanding. I'm pretty sure it does pretty well in Costa Rica now. Last time I was in Costa Rica was 2022, and it wasn't quite doing that, but now I understand it's pretty good through most of Costa Rica. So it's constantly expanding where and what it can do. So I don't know if it would work great there, but my bet is it would work to some degree.
Again, for those either listening on, you've had like 12 to 16 people on a live stream watching, and anyway, if anyone haven't heard about the Merlin bird app, it's extraordinary. It's free, and anytime I go out for a walk with my wife, it's like just turn it on. That's and it's amazing what it will pick up in the area. And
It's going to put me out of a job.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, what it does is it just makes you aware of what's out there and makes you want to learn more about.
Yep.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, and because I always just get questions too. This bird in the morning, it wakes me up. It's going pew 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 pew, and I'm like, and they're like, what is that? I'm like, well, it's a cardinal or whatever, But
Yeah.
but now with the Merlin app, they can put it on and then go, oh, it's a cardinal waking me up in the morning or whatever it is.
The other question I had is, again, I know you as an extraordinary photographer. So what do you use for cameras and lenses?
Good Lord, now I got to think
and,
through my camera.
and
gear
disk
here.
space, I guess.
So actually, I told you my son inherited my other camera, which, oh my God, I'm trying to think of what the heck it even. I shoot Canon equipment. That was a 100 to 400 lens. I'm trying to think of what the body even was, but he's got that now, and I've got. Oh my gosh, my brain just fell out of me. I want to say an Elan 7, but that's like my first film camera.
Okay.
It's one of the newest mirrorless cameras.
Okay, right.
All right, and I think it's a 100 to 500 zoom lens.
Okay.
Which actually, interestingly enough, that 100 to 500, which is a little bigger than my old 100 to 400, it's exactly the same size because the mirrorless cameras are skinnier. Even though the lens is a little bigger, the entire package is the same size as my old setup
So
because the
you
mirrorless
actually
is
fold-
skinnier.
fold it, right.
So I was able to keep most of them. And the great thing too is the batteries are the same as my other. They didn't make a new battery like this. The battery you can get batteries that are higher density batteries because these things eat batteries because it's a live view. I didn't think I was gonna like that at first because all my old experience with live view types of cameras, they're always very clunky and the image was slow and you couldn't see things. And this thing's incredible. And so you're seeing exactly what it looks like when you take the picture. It's gonna be too dark, too light. whatever, and the motor drive on the thing, and it's got eye detection, so it can tell, like, you know, it's focusing, and it picks up the eye of whatever the animal is you're trying to get, so
And
the
that's
eye
what-
is going to be in focus, because if it's not, eye's not in focus, the picture usually sucks for wildlife photography. It had a little trouble every now and with jaguars, because jaguars have all the spots. It sucks for insects so far. I'm trying to figure out a new setting, because like an eye spot on the back of a butterfly, it's going to focus on that, and it's not going to get the head in focus. So I've got to figure out a few tricks with that. I just got that set up. Well, I've had it for a little while. I got it the June before we left on that trip.
So how many SD cards do you bring with you? And I'm assuming
Well,
you
I had a
download
bunch.
it every day?
So I have a bunch of 64s, and I have some 256. And the great thing about that particular camera is, I want to say it's an EOS 7, but I don't think that makes sense either. I can't believe I can't remember my camera gear right now. It's in the car. I could go get it. But the great thing about it has a dual drive. So I actually use a 64, and I keep the 256, and that it auto backs up. So the 64, so it's writing to both cards at the same time. So I can go through 4 64 cards, and it's backing up to the 256. So that was kind of my system down there, because I really didn't want to. I mean, you do not want to come back from this trip and have stuff gone. Yeah. I know some people bring their own laptops. So I don't really have a laptop. I just keep it all on cards and hope I don't run out. And I bought quite a few cards before I went on this trip.
The cards are, you know, the film is cheap.
Yes. In the long run, the cards are cheap. The camera gear was cheap compared to the trip. So.
Sorry, any other questions? Oh, another one, sure.
When you were looking for Jaguar, are they territorial? And like, could the guide say, all right, in this stretch, we would expect to see Marcella, or when you saw the male coming up on the female, was there any like, okay, she's going to chase him off because she doesn't like him encroaching? Like,
right.
What's their socialization pattern like? So
it's a good question. I think in a lot of the big cats, it's fairly typical pattern. A lot of mammals in general, the males generally have a much bigger home range, incorporating many female home ranges into them, right? So that they're available for their mating and their exclusiveness, basically. And they're going to try to keep other males out. Probably not quite as harsh with the females, because of course, you know. So yes, they are territorial. They do have territories. The Jaguar guide that they put out are some of the most frequently sighted jaguars that are in those stretches of the river, and they're probably also somewhat used to boats and not as likely to run out. And they've got some other ones that they're like much rarer seen type of ones that they'll get, and they haven't documented, but they're so shy, or they just, you know, they're only seen occasionally, and partly part of it's because they just keep away from people to some degree. I was once at McNeil River in Alaska for grizzly bears, and what was really interesting on that is that the females and their cubs will be out a lot during the day, and the males don't like when people are out, so the males stay out of the picture, and it kind of gives, and the females and the cubs have kind of learned, if we go hang out near where these people are, the males won't come around, because males will kill cubs and grizzly bears. And the one ranger with there, he said, I made the mistake one time. I decided I really wanted to see what was happening at night out there. So he went out at night, and it was just like giant male grizzly bears everywhere, and it was not a smart move. He decided that was not a good move.
That was a one and done.
That was, yeah, he never did that again. I mean, he was armed and everything, but still, like, yeah, you don't really want to do that at night. You're at a big disadvantage. So yeah, the answer is they have territories. Males are bigger than females, but we didn't see any real territoriality. And like I said, the one female had 2 cubs. I think they do stay 2 years with them, which is similar, like our black bears do that. And then at 2 years, they have to go find their own territory. But my understanding is too, is even some of there are known cases with adult females and their adult cubs that are now adult females, and they will come across each other, and they know each other, you know, and so they're maintaining territories, but they're not necessarily aggressive, at least to their own kids, even though they're on their own at that point. So yeah, that was a good question.
Interesting. Right. Well, unless there are any other questions, Victor, thank you so much again.
Thank
this
you.
is just extraordinary. I'm so glad to have gotten you back here again. And for those that haven't been up here in a while, if you're interested, I'll be happy to take you in and show you some scopes and show you some of our pictures that we've taken, up here. And so again, let's hope the shutdown can be done so
For
that
everybody.
we can get
Thanksgiving travel.
the National Weather Service. And anyway, we'll look forward to seeing you up here again soon. Thanks again.